Today I'm talking to Nicolaus Fest, who's a member of the European Parliament and chairman of the AFD faction in the Parliament, which is the biggest patriotic party in Germany. Well, Nicolaus, the other day we watched 2000 Mules. We saw the screening of 2000 Mules, but it's a documentary that shockingly gives evidence, exposes voter fraud during the 2020 presidential elections in the USA. Well, how credible do you think that this voter fraud really is?
I think it's very credible. I mean, as you said, they are given evidence and they are really going step by step and checking on, checking on every potential denial of these possible fraud. And I think, they made clear that there is no way in doubting that that this election has been rigged. And so I think it's waterproof, and that is really, as you said, it's really shocking, because if the leading Western democracy is, is not foolproof, or its election isn't foolproof anymore, then we have a big problem there.
Yes, because the documentary shows that the voter fraud really tipped the balance, the results of the election in favor of Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, having seen this, I think we should really see or have a closer look at the figures. I mean, what they claimed are claims, but I think it was very plausible and convincing, and there is a high plausibility that if or without these voter fraud, Joe Biden wouldn't have been elected president of the US, but Donald Trump would be still in office, and that is a very worrying idea. Not that Trump would be in office, but that big Western countries are, that it's possible to rig elections in big or the biggest Western countries.
And now we don't really see a strong response from the government, the federal government in the United States. Still, this documentary had a very, very big exposure. Millions and millions of people already saw it. What do you think is the consequence of that? What does it do with the confidence that you can have in your government?
Oh, I mean, the confidence now lays in pieces and is shattered. And I think, but I mean, it's somehow, it's not really surprising that the Biden administration is not doing anything. I mean, they would somehow torpedo their own government and their own stance. So this is the problem with this election fraud, that the party who profits from it won't do anything against it.
But it will impact the confidence, and we have seen that the approval rates of Joe Biden are at a historic low. You're from Germany, you're familiar with the German situation. Do you think that this voter fraud or election fraud, that it's limited just to the United States or some banana republics? Or is it also something that can happen in the EU and actually can happen in a country like Germany?
I think it can happen in most countries. It has happened in Germany, definitely. We have seen the last election, we had the federal election on the same day we had the election to the Parliament of Berlin, and this is now being questioned, and as far as I see and what we have heard, now this election might be rehearsed, and we have to do it another time, because even the most ardent defenders of the election have found out that this election can't be considered valid. We had constituencies where we had 170% more votes than voters, and even deceased people could vote and have voted, and there were wrong voting ballots, and so that people thinking they would vote actually voted invalid, and so this all added up to the point that even the supervisors of this election, although always very careful and very reluctant to say the whole election has to be repeated, actually they have now given or suggested that the fraud and or let's say, I won't call it fraud, but the incapabilities of the government to provide a real and proper election have led to the suggestion or proposal that this election should be rehearsed. And I think we have seen other kinds of frauds in other elections. I think one of the main problems is this vote by mail, but this voting by mail. You never know who actually filled out the form and who signed it, and so. And our constitutional court once said, with a higher percent, if it reaches 30% or more, we have to reconsider our electoral system. Now we are close to, I think, 42% or so. So even our constitutional court has more and more doubts about the legitimacy of our electoral system, and I think that goes for most European countries. If you, for instance, France hasn't got hasn't got a voting by mail, but if the actual ballot form is slightly damaged, it's invalid. So that means the people who really count the votes, if they, make a little, tear it a bit, then it's invalid. And so I think for the time being, probably the most secure system is the Estonian system. They have a completely digital system. I know the problem is with digital elections that they can be rigged as well, if you know the algorithm and so, but I think it's more difficult to rig an election that is purely digital, but an election that goes with the old goes to the old way. So I think all European countries have to reconsider their way to elect politicians.
Yeah, well, because your conclusions are quite frightening. Basically, they're saying that we have insufficient checks around the electoral procedures that enable certain individuals to commit election fraud. And that brings me to a frightening perspective, and that's also a question to you, and that is, are our democracies eroding?
I think that let's say, election fraud was unthinkable of in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and so. And now, there is some erosion in the democratic or the way parties deal with each other. And I mean, your party, my party, all patriotic parties experience the same taboo and this cordon sanitaire. And I mean, democracy is all about talking to each other and trying to find the best way. But if you say from the very start, okay, we don't talk to them and we don't talk to them, and those people are not accepted either, then the range of opinions is very limited, and that will not lead to a real democratic vote. So I think we have a democratic problem, and the election fraud, which we have now seen in several countries, in France and in Germany, at least partly, that is, I think, the consequence of people thinking, oh, no, I know where the truth is, and it doesn't make sense to listen to other people, and that is a very dangerous path. So, I think all the countries have to rethink their, or have to find ways to make their election system foolproof and especially proof against all kinds of frauds.
Nicolaus Fest, thank you for coming here, for sharing your thought with us, and on this extremely important issue. And I think it can hardly be overstated. I mean, elections determine the direction of your democracy. Election results basically shape the future of your country. So, as you stated, this should be a #1 priority for each government to make sure that the elections are foolproof. Thank you.
Absolutely.